What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another Daily Drop brought to you by TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner. Joining me as he always does is our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And AJ, we're here for a Carolina football related drop, and we're going to be discussing a topic that Mack Brown has talked about this offseason a little bit as well. So I'm looking forward to kind of diving into this one. Mack's talked a lot about how getting rid of the soft narrative that surrounds Carolina, has surrounded his program over the last few years, is a big part of this year's mission going into the new season. I think as people who've covered the team since Mack Brown, even before, but since Mack Brown took over in part two, we've seen that narrative be played out. We've seen that narrative be talked about amongst other programs and, sometimes in the lead ups to the game. We've seen it after the game from time to time. So it's not like this is a narrative that was maybe internally made up. This is a narrative we've also seen examples of from the outside as well. So I think it's a relative narrative. I think it's a narrative that, like Mack said, the program is desperate to change. And I think if you can change that narrative, you're probably going to have more success on the field because of it, if that narrative ends up being shifted. So what are your thoughts on kind of what Mack, essentially, what Mack means by that? And I guess kind of building off of that, how much of a challenge is it to get rid of that soft narrative? Because to me, that's a mindset change, not necessarily a physical or elemental change.
Yeah, it is. It is physical. It is physical, but you have to win your battles in football, and you have it's physical and mental. Mm-hmm. It's got to be really mentally tough to get through a lot of stuff in football. If you've ever played in the trenches, you're guaranteed to hit someone else's head with your head every snap. And so, and it's a battle. It's a tug of war in there sometimes. You win a snap, you lose a snap. And if you lose 2 or 3 snaps, you got to dig deep inside and win that next snap. It's constantly a back and forth if you've got good competitive players there. But it's all throughout. And what I think is interesting is that Mack will defend certain narratives. He will defend certain things about his team or program if he doesn't think that they're true. But when he brought this up last spring, he didn't do it and then defend against it. He said, we have to change that narrative. So I think he's saying, yeah, we are too soft. We need to be more physical. And the numbers bear that out. 19 sacks versus 40 allowed. One of the bottom teams in the nation in tackles for loss. How do you measure whether you're soft or not? Well, you look at numbers first, right? The eyes don't lie, but numbers absolutely don't lie. Eyes can deceive sometimes. But when you give up 40 sacks and register 19, when you're at the bottom in TFLs, you allow a lot of TFLs, that means you're losing in the trenches a lot. So you got to get more physical in the trenches. And I think that sort of sets the tone for the rest of the defense. I think that they're very physical at linebacker. But because they haven't been consistently good up front, so many of Cedric Gray's tackles are hitting a guy on the side instead of hitting up front. Anybody knows football, and certainly anybody that's ever played football, you deliver more of a blow when you hit a guy coming at you than you do when you hit him on the side. Mm-hmm. And you also stop him for less of a gain. So that's what he's talking about. So they got to be better up front. Got to be better up front. When your quarterback is running for his life, you don't look like a physically tough team up front. So you have to be better. When other teams are gashing you for 9-yard gains, and your linebackers if Cedric Gray makes 16 tackles in a game, but only 3 of them he hits head on, most of them are from behind or chasing a guy down, that kind of thing, that's not a very physical team. You need to have more head-on collisions. Think of those old Ram Tough commercials where the 2 Rams bang in like that. That's what you want. Football player back in the day, the helmets are different now, but back in the day when you could get marks from other teams' helmets, they called them death marks. When you finish a game, if you have a yellow helmet, you're playing a team with a blue helmet, you want blue streaks on your helmet. Yeah. Those are death marks. Oh, my bad. I was knocked my microphone over. Those are death marks. I'm getting into it. I remember the death mark days. But that's what they were called, and that's what you wanted. And that's what this team wants. Jacob, when you're on the field or Kevin's on the field after a game and you do one of those little videos after a win and Mack's doing the handshake and you're down by the tunnel and the players are coming off, if they play a red team, if there's some red streaks on helmets, especially guys that play a lot, that's a good sign. Mm-hmm. That's a good sign. So changing the narrative is something that is completely up to them. Now, I do think it is sort of a tone that people have about UNC football. You're seeing it right now with the Drake May stuff. I can't tell you how many times when I see a Drake May or Caleb Williams, as a Heisman or number one in the draft, especially draft stuff, when people constantly bring up Mitch Trubisky, they call him Mitch Trubisky squared, Mitch Trubisky part 2, because certain things get set in people's minds and that becomes a reality. That's the narrative, right? Mm-hmm. I do think North Carolina has had, since Butch Davis, has had a narrative being a little bit soft. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they have to change that. And they have to go maybe a step further into the realm of ultra physicality to change that, because this isn't a recent thing. This has been pushed in public discourse for quite a while. Mm-hmm. And they might have a team now on defense that has a chance of tweaking that some. Changing it, I don't know. We'll see. Tweaking it, yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I do agree. It's a narrative that's followed Carolina around for a long time. And for me, I guess the last thing I want to talk about and last question I have before we wrap this one up, when you talk about shifting that mindset, to me, I don't know how much that can be coached in you. You probably agree. I mean, you can try to coach physicality and technique and all that stuff, but to me, shedding a soft team narrative is an internal thing from a player perspective. Of like we talked about ad nauseum last year about the trenches and how soft and just bad Carolina was at times on offensive line and defensive line. And to me, I mean, there's some X's and O's that go into that. You can coach technique better. You can do this differently. You can tweak this and change, maybe lose some weight on each side so you're a little bit quicker off the snap. There's things you can do, but for me, when it comes down to especially that part of the field, that has to be an internal will, an internal, like, I am tired of being called soft. I am not soft, and therefore I'm going to show you by not playing soft. To me, that has to be a little more of like an internal desire from an individual. And that can be, if a couple individuals in the unit start doing it, it can spread out across that defensive line or the offensive line. And that comes with good leadership as well. If Travis Shaw is playing more aggressive and K'Mon Rucker's playing more aggressive and Tamari Fox is playing more aggressive, maybe a couple of the younger guys they notice and they start doing that too. Maybe a Miles Murphy starts doing that a little bit more too. So for me, my question is, can you coach that? Or is it more of, all right, internally as a player, we have to take, and as a position group, we have to take a little bit more pride in what we do. And we're tired of being called soft. So let's go out there and prove to people we're not soft. Because to me as well, I mean, you talk about a big time motivator for an individual or a team. That to me is one of the ones you pin on the board. Everybody calls us soft. Let's go show them we're not soft. To me, that is bulletin board material at its finest.
Well, and I think you just answered your question. Yeah, you can coach it, because coaching isn't just, you get in your 3-point stance and you come off the ball this way.
You do
coaching
it this way.
Just you run this route and you catch like this. Coaching is culture. In fact, maybe one of the most important parts of coaching is culture. And culture generally doesn't just happen by accident. I think cultures build. I think you accrue over time, but a coach is responsible ultimately for the culture in the program, because they have to set that culture. They have to create that. Yeah. So when you're saying put it on the board and give them that little bit of a chip, that has to be communicated and repeated over and over again, but it also has to be coached on the field. That's why this team hit more this spring than they have in recent springs. They're emphasizing that. Get a guy beat up. There are a lot of drills you can do in football that will test how physical you are. Yeah. And sometimes those drills suck. But you know what? If you want to get in the field and you're in whatever form of nutcracker they're allowed to do these days, you win that nutcracker battle. And you do it in the fall. I think they're going to hit more early this fall. They have a lot of sorting out to do. And not just at the line of scrimmage. They need to be more physical at corner. Brandon and I are doing a series of podcasts about the position groups. And one of the reasons why we both agree that they're going to be better at corner this year than before is because I think they're going to be more physical at corner. And they have a chance to play a little bit more press coverage. And you have to be physical at press coverage, because a lot of times you have to win right at the snap. You're in that little area where you can have a little bit of contact. You have to win right away, and you have to be physical to win. And then you'd be physical for the 50-50 balls. Then the corners have to play the run better. They brought in Antavius Lane from Georgia State to play safety. And Mack loves his nickname because it's Stick. His name is Stick Lane. And he's a guy that you want to have a safety that has Stick as his name, because unless he's skinny, he got it hitting people.
Yeah.
So you want that. So you want to be more physical everywhere, and you create that culture. You hit more. Now, you can hit too much because of injuries, but I think sometimes you just got to hit.
Mhm.
You know, there are a lot of coaches, and one of the things I absolutely love about football, and going back in the day, even when I played, before dirt was invented, you know, we had some pretty tough coaches. We had 2 days, and 1 year we had 3 days, 3 practices a day. And if
That's
you're
tough.
not getting it right, I had a coach that said, "Run it again."
Yeah.
Run it again.
Mhm.
If you remember that scene, the movie All the Right Moves, where Craig T. Nelson's the head coach, and he tells the assistant coach, "You run that until they get it right." And it's nasty and raining, it's mud and everything else. That's culture. Run it until you get it right. Do it again. Do it again. Paul Johnson used to do at Georgia Tech and Navy. And they only did a handful of things, but man, they were going to do it right. Vince Lombardi ran 6th place. Do it right. In practice, run it till it's perfect. And perfect means you have to be physical in order for all the other stuff to work. So I think it is culture. And I do think Mack's trying to work on that culture. I think it's mental. It's players coming from within, like you were saying. But I also think it's something that if it's being pushed and a couple of guys are doing it, you have to make a decision if you're a guy that's not maybe as physical as you need to be. Do I get more physical or don't I?
Mhm.
And that's going to be very interesting to see how physical they are, because they have their first 4 games, SEC team, physical. App State, they're going to bring it.
Yeah.
Minnesota, physical, Big Ten team. And then at Pitt, maybe the most physical team they'll play all year. So we're going to find out how physical they are. And when they go into the open date after the 4th game, we'll come back here and do a pod, Jacob. We'll do a daily drop about okay, have they achieved Mack's mission of shedding the soft narrative? It may take a while for the narrative to go away, but are they doing what's necessary to get rid of that narrative? That will be the question, and we'll answer it. And I think that we'll know how much that needle has moved after the 4th game.
Agreed. Yeah, you want to get fans back on side too. You go out there in game 1 and 2 and start popping people. I mean, nothing.
Well, yeah, their own fans have that narrative. Their own fans push that narrative, Jacob. 100%. You know it.
I saw it last year all the time, particularly with the quarterback room. It was, you know, I saw the amount of times I heard, "I'm so tired of hearing rude boys. There's nothing rude about this group." The amount of times I saw that tweet or heard a fan say it, "If I got $1 for every time, I'd be rich now." So it is an internal narrative within certain position groups and really just the team as a whole. And again, bulletin board material. You flip that narrative, not only are you going to see better product on the field, you're going to see a better interest from fans. They're going to be more excited about it. That is what football is. It's not two-hand touch football. It's not flag football. The point of it is going out there and hitting people. More physical team will have more success on the field. I think it's a pretty easy correlation there. So
I want to know what people watching, listening think, but I think a defense, a fan base that knows their defense could go out and get a 3 and out and can.
Oh man,
not hope they will, but man, they got to get 3 and out right now, and we got to help them do it.
Yeah,
I think that's when stadiums are loudest.
Yes,
I think that's when the buzz is best in a football stadium. And you know, when you get inside the 10-yard line and you know that the coordinator isn't going to call a freaking rollout and throw the other way, when you're just going to line up and just go boom.
Yeah, because you're physical. Yeah,
that's when fans are their loudest.
Oh yeah,
and that's when they're confident, and then that's when they know, okay, there's a tough stretch in the game, but this team can recover. That's changing a football program overnight requires a lot of things, and this is an area that still needs a lot of work. And it has been addressed and it's been emphasized. So we'll see how much it pays off.
Agreed. Fascinating season coming up and fascinating fall camp coming up, which isn't too long away now. So make sure you keep it locked to TarIllustrated.com for all your coverage from fall camp, all your coverage from the season, and recruiting news, basketball as well. We do it all over here at Tar Illustrated. Come sign up, $833 a month. You can become a premium subscriber too, and you can become a Carolina Insider too. So come join our awesome community. Links below. We want to hear from you guys too. Get involved if you are a premium member on our boards. You guys know exactly where to post and get involved in the chat about this, or you can get involved on Twitter and Facebook as well. Links are all below. Go check us out. Go give us a follow. Go like all our stuff, and keep sharing it. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell on the YouTube side as well, so you know every single time we upload. See you on the next one. Thanks.